Good morning, and welcome to Perspectives, our weekly program dedicated to exploring the pressing issues of our time. Today, we delve into a topic that sits at the intersection of technology, education, and ethics. Should schools monitor students' social media activity? This question has become increasingly pertinent as young people navigate the complexities of the digital world, and schools grapple with their responsibilities in this evolving landscape. Joining us to discuss this are two distinguished guests. Mr. David Chen, a school counselor, argues in favor of responsible monitoring for student safety. And Dr. Sarah Jones, a child psychologist who raises concerns about privacy and student autonomy. We will begin with opening statements from each of our guests, followed by rebuttals, a moderated discussion, and finally, closing remarks. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. It's a privilege to be here to discuss such a critical issue. My stance is clear. I believe that schools, entrusted with the care and development of our children, have a compelling responsibility to proactively engage with the environments where students spend a significant portion of their lives, and that includes the digital environment. Therefore, I advocate for the thoughtful and ethical monitoring of students' public social media activity as a vital measure to ensure their safety and well-being. We can no longer afford to ignore the stark realities of the online world. Cyberbullying, for instance, is not a trivial playground squabble. It's a relentless form of harassment that can follow a student home, into their bedroom, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The psychological scars it leaves can be profound and long-lasting. Social media platforms, unfortunately, often serve as the primary arenas for such attacks. Furthermore, students increasingly use social media to express their innermost thoughts and feelings, including cries for help when they are struggling with mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, or even suicidal ideation. Identifying these signals early can be life-saving. Schools, as consistent points of contact and support, are uniquely positioned to intervene or facilitate access to necessary resources when such indicators emerge on public platforms. Our duty to provide a safe learning environment does not end at the school gates. It extends to online interactions that spill over into the school community, affecting student morale, attendance, and academic performance. It's crucial to understand that this is not about unwarranted surveillance or prying into private lives. We advocate for monitoring that is transparent, governed by clearly defined policies, and focused on publicly accessible information or specific, credible concerns that are brought to the school's attention. This is about protection, prevention, and responsible pastoral care in the 21st century.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes and Mr. Chen. I appreciate the opportunity to present a different perspective on this complex matter. While I share Mr. Chen's deep concern for student safety and well-being, I firmly believe that empowering schools to monitor student social media activity is a significant overreach, one that fundamentally infringes upon their rights to privacy and could have detrimental effects on their psychological development. Students, like all individuals, have a right to a private life, a space where they can communicate, explore ideas, and even make mistakes without the constant fear of institutional scrutiny. This private sphere is essential for developing autonomy, critical thinking, and a sense of self. School surveillance of their online activities, even if limited to, quote, public posts, blurs the lines between school life and private life in a way that is deeply problematic. What is considered quote, 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 can be nuanced, and the context of online interactions is often lost when viewed through an institutional lens. There's a considerable risk of misinterpretation. Sarcasm, hyperbole, or even artistic expression common in youth online culture could be mistaken for genuine threats or indicators of severe distress, leading to, quote, false positives. Such misjudgments can result in unfair disciplinary actions, unnecessary alarm, and a breakdown of trust between students, their families, and the school. Moreover, the knowledge that their social media is being watched can create a, quote, chilling effect on students. They may become hesitant to express their opinions, explore controversial topics, or even seek help from peers online for fear of reprisal or judgment from school authorities. This self-censorship can stifle their intellectual curiosity and their ability to engage authentically with the world around them. Instead of surveillance, our focus should be on robust digital citizenship education. We need to equip students with the skills to navigate the online world safely and responsibly, to understand the impact of their digital footprint, and to develop resilience against online harms. Fostering open communication channels, where students feel safe to report concerns without fearing surveillance, is far more constructive.
Mr. Chen raises valid points about privacy, and I want to be unequivocal. The aim is not to engage in widespread, indiscriminate spying on students. That would indeed be an unacceptable intrusion. However, when we talk about monitoring, we are referring to a targeted approach, often triggered by specific concerns or focusing on information that is already in the public domain, posts that anyone, including their peers or potential predators, can see. The argument isn't about invading private messages, but about being aware of public cries for help or overt threats that can impact the school community. Dr. Jones speaks of the, quote, chilling effect, and I understand that concern. But I ask you to weigh that potential chilling effect against the very real and tangible dangers of unchecked cyberbullying that leads to a student dropping out of school, or worse, harming themselves. Consider the student who is too afraid or ashamed to speak to an adult directly, but whose public posts clearly indicate severe depression or suicidal thoughts. Is it not our moral obligation to act on such information if it comes to our attention through legitimate means? Furthermore, digital citizenship education, which Dr. Jones rightly champions, is not mutually exclusive with safety protocols. In fact, they are complementary. We must educate students on responsible online behavior, but we also need mechanisms to intervene when, despite that education, serious risks emerge that threaten their safety or the safety of others. It's about having multiple layers of support and protection, not relying on a single strategy when the stakes are so high.
Mr. Chen's assurance that monitoring would be targeted and limited to public information sounds reasonable in theory, but the practical realities are far more complex and fraught with peril. The line between public and private in the digital realm is often blurred, and what starts as targeted monitoring can easily expand, a phenomenon known as scope creep. Who decides what constitutes a, quote, credible concern sufficient to trigger monitoring? What safeguards are in place to prevent this from becoming a tool for general surveillance of students whose views or lifestyles don't align with the mainstream? Moreover, effective and ethical monitoring requires significant resources, specialized software, extensive training for staff on privacy laws, cultural sensitivity, and adolescent psychology. Most schools are already under-resourced. Without adequate training, there's a high risk of bias, misinterpreting slang, cultural nuances, or simply applying adult interpretations to adolescent communication, leading to disproportionate responses, particularly for students from marginalized communities. Mr. Chen also speaks of intervening when students signal distress online. While the intent is noble, this approach can inadvertently undermine the role of parents and caregivers. It can also hinder the development of students' own coping mechanisms and their ability to seek help through trusted personal relationships. If students know the school is watching, they might be less likely to confide in anyone at all, including their parents or mental health professionals outside the school system. We risk creating a dependency on institutional oversight rather than fostering resilience and personal responsibility.
Thank you both for those insightful rebuttals. Let's delve deeper into some specific aspects. Mr. Chen, you advocate for targeted monitoring. Could you provide concrete examples of online activity that you believe would warrant school intervention? And crucially, what robust safeguards can be implemented to prevent overreach and protect student privacy rights effectively?
Certainly, Ms. Hayes. Examples warranting intervention would include direct threats of violence against other students or school staff, clear evidence of severe cyberbullying originating from or targeting our students, or repeated public posts indicating suicidal ideation or severe self-harm intentions. Safeguards are paramount. These must include a written, publicly accessible policy developed in consultation with parents, students, and legal experts. Any monitoring should require approval from a designated senior staff member, be documented and focused solely on the specific concern. Furthermore, the use of AI should be carefully vetted for bias, and there should be a clear process for students and parents to appeal any actions taken based on such monitoring.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. Dr. Jones, you've expressed strong reservations about monitoring. If schools are not to monitor social media, what proactive, preventative measures can they realistically take when they become aware, perhaps through a concerned student or parent, of credible online threats or severe distress signals being posted by a student? How can schools act responsibly without resorting to surveillance?
That's a critical question, Ms. Hayes. Schools should focus on creating a culture of trust and open communication, where students feel safe reporting concerns about themselves or their peers, without fear of a disciplinary or surveillance-first response. This means having well-publicized, accessible reporting mechanisms, anonymous if necessary, that lead to supportive interventions. When a concern is raised, the priority should be direct engagement with the student, involving parents or guardians immediately. Schools should invest heavily in mental health professionals, counselors, psychologists, social workers, who can provide support, assess the situation, and connect students with external resources. Education on identifying and responding to distress in peers is also vital, empowering students to help each other responsibly.
Mr. Chen, Dr. Jones emphasizes direct engagement and support systems. How does monitoring fit alongside, or potentially conflict with, building that kind of trusted environment?
I believe it can fit alongside, Ms. Hayes, if implemented transparently. If students and parents understand why and asterisk how monitoring might occur for extreme safety circumstances, it doesn't have to erode trust. It's about demonstrating that the school cares enough to look for danger signs when other avenues might have failed or not yet been accessed. The key is that monitoring shouldn't be the first resort, but a potential tool in a wider safeguarding toolkit that includes all the excellent supportive measures Dr. Jones described. The goal is always to guide the student towards that support.
My concern, Ms. Hayes, is that the very existence of a monitoring capability, however well-intentioned, can alter student behavior in ways that make genuine trust more difficult to achieve. If students perceive the school as an entity that might be watching their online expression, they may be less forthcoming in direct interactions with counselors or teachers. The focus should remain unequivocally on fostering those human connections and support systems as the primary pathway for help, rather than relying on technological surveillance, which, by its nature, is less personal and more prone to misinterpretation. It's a subtle but important distinction in how we approach student welfare.
In closing, I want to reiterate that my advocacy for responsible social media monitoring stems from a single overriding priority: the safety and well-being of our students. In an era where online life is inextricably linked with offline reality, we cannot afford to ignore potential cries for help or threats that manifest in the digital space. This is not about creating a surveillance state within our schools. It is about having a carefully regulated tool, used judiciously, transparently, and ethically, as part of a comprehensive approach to student support. We seek a balance, one that allows us to mitigate serious risks while always striving to respect the rights and dignity of our students. Thank you.
I too thank you for this discussion. My primary concern remains the fundamental importance of student privacy, autonomy, and the fostering of trust between students and educational institutions. Implementing social media monitoring, however well-intentioned, sets a dangerous precedent. It risks normalizing surveillance and could have long-term negative impacts on young people's willingness to express themselves freely and develop into independent, critical thinkers. Our efforts and resources are far better invested in comprehensive digital citizenship education, robust mental health support systems, and cultivating an environment of open communication and mutual respect within our schools. These are the pathways to truly empowering our students. Thank you.
Mr. Chen, Dr. Jones, thank you both for an exceptionally insightful and thought-provoking debate this morning. You've articulated the complexities and significant considerations surrounding the issue of school monitoring of student social media with great clarity. Mr. Chen has emphasized the potential for monitoring as a tool for safety and intervention in critical situations, stressing responsible and ethical application. Dr. Jones has powerfully argued for the protection of student privacy and autonomy, advocating for education and support systems as the primary means of ensuring well-being. It's clear there are no easy answers, and the balance between safety and privacy is a delicate one. We hope this discussion has provided our audience with a deeper understanding of the different perspectives. Thank you for joining us on Perspectives. Good